All right, so today we're going to be talking about carrots and onions and celery and other mirepoix. But we're going to start with carrots, and I thought that I'd start the carrot conversation out in the garden where the carrots are growing. So I have two varieties of carrot right here behind me. I have a French ball or Parisian ball, sometimes they're called. It's a round carrot. And then the other carrot I'm growing is a Thumbelina. And it's also a round carrot. It's a little bit smaller. It's about quarter size or dime size. They vary. And then the French ones, they grow a little bit bigger. They'll grow probably 3 inches in diameter. I pull them a little bit early because I'm making pickles out of a lot of them. So if I left them in the ground, they'd continue to grow and they'd continue to produce sugar and they'd continue to get sweet and they'd continue actually to improve. So carrots, these are orange carrots, and not all carrots are orange. I'm sure you've probably seen the rainbow carrots in the grocery store. They have little small ones, they have little baby carrots, and they have big ones as well. So the orange carrot is a relatively recent development. It was the Dutch who developed the orange carrot for the French aristocracy, the House of Orange. Go figure. So the orange carrot at that time was the rarest of the colors. We had white carrots and purple carrots and yellow carrots, and there were just all kinds of carrots, and they were not really uniform in size like we think of them today. But excuse me. Um, the orange carrots were the rarest, and so the House of Orange commissioned for this orange carrot to be developed, and that was the official carrot of the royal household. And it became very popular, and it got around, and now that's the carrot that we see most of the time is the orange carrot. Um, the purple carrots and the yellow carrots, if you were to blindfold yourself and taste them side by side with the orange carrots, it's really the same flavor. So the difference is going to be obviously the color. So the rainbow carrots, I've sent you some rainbow carrots home this week so you guys can get a little bit of a chance to play with them. It's nice to cut them straight down, and you see on the inside, there's a little design on the inside of those carrots as well. Now the dark purple ones, if you were lucky to get any of those, just beware that those carrots, those dark purple ones, they will lose that purple color when we cook them in water. That purple dye, that color that develops in there, it dissolves in water. So you can retain that color if you, one, deep fry them, and nobody really deep fries carrots, or roast them. So I like to take them with all the other carrots and I'll put them in a pan, salt and pepper, a little bit of olive oil, and then I'll roast them in a really hot oven. And I mean like a hot oven, like 475, 500 degrees. And that way they roast very quickly and it develops the sugars and they get very sweet. If you roast them too low, what happens is they get kind of soft and they get soggy and they lose their texture. So we like to roast these vegetables at a much higher temperature. So there's basically two kinds of vegetables that grow in the ground. We break them into two large categories. We have tubers and we have taproots or root vegetables. So tubers are not really root vegetables. They're a bulb that kind of grows underground, and it's a storage for all the sugars that are produced by the leaves. A taproot, it has a similar storage system. That's why carrots and onions are so sweet, except that the carrot is literally a root. It is the swollen root, whereas potatoes and other tubers, they're not necessarily the root. They're a nodule, so they're classified a little bit different. So we learn more about this later on in the class, the difference between tubers and taproots. So the carrot, again, is a taproot vegetable, and it likes to be grown in very loose soil, so it has somewhere to go. It doesn't have to push things out of the way. I chose the round carrots because this is a raised bed, and I wanted them to be rather shallow. I didn't want them to go too deep into the raised bed. This bed is certainly deep enough that I could grow those kinds of carrots that grow straight down, but I wanted to grow the round ones, like I said earlier, because specifically I'm here to do carrots. I'm growing these to do pickles. So I've already done a test batch of pickles. I'll show you those in a little bit. Um, and I'm going to pickle these as well. So I harvested some of these this morning. Like I said, carrots, you know, when you grow carrots, you wonder, well, when do I pull them? And you can really pull them at just about any time. The longer they sit, the sweeter they'll get, but you can certainly pull them when they're small and they're delicious. So I started pulling them a couple weeks ago to taste them. And as soon as they got to the sugar level that I like, that's when I started harvesting more and more. So I have about 1/3 of them left right here. This is my bed for my carrots. And I just go in here and I look around and I move some of the dirt from the top of the plant to see how well that the root is developing. And so this one is good. So this one right here, I can tell it's got a lot of green leaves right here. It's very tall, it's very healthy. So I just give this a very gentle tug and out it comes. So this is one of my round carrots, and this one is very nicely formed. And that is a product of using good soil and loose soil. If your soil is too compact, you can break it down with a little bit of sand, and that helps it drain and it helps the carrots not fight so much. Carrots don't grow well in compact or clay type soils. They really do prefer the sandy soils, and they like a lot of nutrients. So this is a very compost rich soil I have grown here, and it's done very well for the plants. So these right now are at about 70 days since I planted them here, and they're really nice. They're very sweet. They have a great flavor. And if you wash them and take them inside and eat them right away before they ever hit the refrigerator, they have just an amazing flavor and an even better aroma. There's nothing better than a really nice fresh vegetable straight from the garden, and these are no exception. So again, this is my bed. I have a little drip line in here that I turn on when they need it, so they don't get overwatered. And right next to them in the same bed, I have the onions, and we're going to talk about the onions here in just a little bit. And between the onions, I have this beauty right here, and this is an eggplant. So all of these are compatible in the garden. They grow well together. They don't fight each other. Some plants you don't want to put next to each other in the garden. But this is kind of my mirepoix bed. I don't have celery growing this year. I certainly have grown celery in the past. Celery is one of those things that's a little bit tricky to get it to grow into the really nice heads that you see in the grocery store. They tend to want to flail out, or they grow a little bit weird. But anyway, so this bed really has carrots and onions. I have another bed in a different part of the yard where I'm also growing carrots, the same two varieties. And I'm going to let those go much longer because these will be pickles, and the other ones that I have growing are going to be more of a general use or general purpose carrot for stews and such. So let's go inside and I'll show you how we trim these up and clean them off, and then we'll do some various cuts from these, and I'll show you my pickles. Okay, so we're back in now, and these are the ones that I harvested earlier in the day, and then this is the one that we just picked right here. So I've already washed it, gotten most of the stuff off of it. Of course, I compost, so even that, all the little peels, I save everything. So now that I have them washed and cleaned, so with the greens, I really just find it easier just to go through and I just trim them like that. And then you can do the same with all these. And I'll go through and I'll get the majority of these like this. It's just easier and it's faster, I find it anyway, to do this. Now some of these, like this little one right here, I'm going to go back and wash this again, but I'll trim this one up, and then I'll go back with my knife and take this off right here, just the green part right here, and then I won't peel that. Not these anyway. Since these just came out of the garden and these are going to be pickled, I'm not going to go through and peel all of these. Some of these I will, but the little ones like this I won't. So I have my bowl over here for the ones that I'm finished trimming. So
like I said, I'll go through here and I'll kind of get the majority of them like that. Just real quick, does it? And then once I have them all, I'll wash those off, and then I'll go to my cutting board for the rest of it. So let's do that. All right, so I've trimmed up all the carrots. I saved a couple to show you just what I did. So for this, see, these big ball carrots, they have all these little roots that grow off all around them. And all I'm doing is taking this little peeler right here, the one that's got the thinner, sharper blade, and I'm just kind of taking all those little hairs off. It's really all I'm doing. Then if there's any green here, I'm taking that as well. And that's mostly aesthetics. All right. So once I have it trimmed up really nice, I take it and I'll split it like this. And now I can get at the top. So I'll just do a little wedge cut like that, and that goes in my compost pile right there. I'm going to get rid of all of that. So the shape here for this project isn't that important to me. I want them to be not a certain shape, but mostly a certain size. These are my pickles, and they're, you know, we put them next to sandwiches, or we put them on salads. We do a lot of stuff with them. So we want them to be a good bite size without being too big. And if they're too small, they get soft and they don't hold their crunch. They're just not as good. So here are a couple of the little Thumbelinas, and you can see they look different. They don't have the roots growing out of them like the bigger French ball did. So this one, I'm just going to give this one just a little scrape like this, because there's not much there. I'm not really peeling it, I'm as much as just cleaning it up a little bit. Now, I want to get that kind of stuff out. Sometimes they can be a little fibrous in there like that. And then clip that on the bottom. And if the crevices are too deep, I'll peel down the crevices too, so that I can get in there and clean. So here's one that I wanted to save to peel, not because it has roots growing out of it, but it has to have a lot of green on it. And that's another reason that I'll peel these. You see, I'll peel that green right out of there. And again, this is a very thin peeler. It's much thinner than the other one I have. So I'm just taking off a little bit. These are small, so I don't want to lose much in the peeling process. But I don't want that green. And again, it's mostly for aesthetics. It's mostly, it's going to be in a jar with other pickles, and carrots aren't green. These carrots are orange, so we're going to leave them orange. Get rid of all the green. So we'll just take the top off of this one. That's really nice. And I'm going to split that one right down the middle. Take the top off of that one. And then this one. All right. So this one I think I'm going to split in half. Some of them I left whole, like that last one I just put in there. I just clipped the top off of it. But there are a few in here. There's one that I left whole. And that's one of the reasons that I grew this particular carrot, is because I wanted to use them whole like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to swing the camera around the other way, because I have water going. So my next step for this project is I have to blanch these carrots. Now, blanching is a process that we do for a lot of vegetables, especially vegetables, to par cook them before we start to, as part of our mise en place, or we blanch them to par cook them to go in like a salad bar or something like that. Broccoli especially, if you're going to eat it raw in a crudité platter or in a salad, we take broccoli and we will blanch broccoli for literally 10 seconds. And it completely transforms the color of the broccoli, and it really makes it pop. So We do this blanching process for a number of reasons, but what we're doing here is we're starting the cooking process, and we're softening the carrots just a little bit so that when we go to put them through the pickling process, they'll cook very evenly and be even all the way through. So again, I'm going to swing the camera around here, or attempt to show you what I have. I have a pot with boiling water. See, I'm wearing the right shoes. There we go. Here's my setup right there. So I have my boiling water, and in this water I have salt. So everybody always asks, well, how much salt? But it's about a tablespoon per quart. But of course that depends on what you're doing. If I'm blanching broccoli, it may be a little bit less. It's fine for carrots. For potatoes, it's about right. But you always want to salt the water when you're doing blanching. And what this does is it actually imparts a little bit of that salt flavor into the product, which is what we want. And that prevents you from having to oversalt or overseason later on. Plus the salted water that gets that salt flavor deeper into the vegetables, so it's not just on the outside, it's through and through. So this is boiling. I'm going to turn this on high to make sure that it doesn't cool down once I put this in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop all of these in here like this. So I have a spider right here. By the way, this is called a spider. And a spider is for exactly this kind of thing. There are round spiders and there are square spiders. And then there's the 8-legged kind, and we try to avoid those in the kitchen. However, this one is one of my spiders. And I have a square one around here as well. So I'm going to let this blanch for about a minute. Basically, I'm going to put it in there, it's going to drop temp, and then when it comes back to a boil, that's when I'm going to pull it out. And then I'm going to put it here. What I have here is ice water. So I don't have an ice maker. We really don't use ice around here very much. I do have like a half a bag of ice in there, and it's for margaritas, so it's not for blanching vegetables. So, but what these are is those are the little freezable things you can freeze over and over again. I've washed them, they're sanitized, and I keep them in a bag in my freezer, frozen, for just this use. I'll have ice water here. This thing's not wanting to come back. I have ice water here, it'll come out of here and it'll go right into the ice water. So this is done. It's been a minute and a half right at it. So I don't want to cook these all the way. I just want to set the color and set the look and get them going just a little bit. And it also helps to rinse out any loose dirt, even though I've washed these like 10 times. So now it goes into the ice water where it stops cooking. The ice water is to stop the cooking so it doesn't continue to cook. You don't want to set it in warm water because it'll continue to cook. You don't want to leave it in the pot because it'll continue to cook. So I make sure I stir this around and that it's good and cold. And then the rule of thumb here is if you blanch something for 2 minutes, it goes into the ice bath for 2 minutes. So however long you have blanched it in here, that's the minimum amount of time that you need to put it in the ice bath. That ensures that it's chilled all the way through. A good example of that of non-vegetable use is we do hard-boiled eggs. And I'll cook hard-boiled eggs for about 20 minutes. Not boiling, but in hot water. And so then I pull them out of that, and so that they don't continue to cook in the shell and get that green ring, they go into an ice bath for 20 minutes. And then the temperature equalizes back and they get cold, and they're easy to peel and they're not overcooked. So, rule of thumb with blanching. Number 1, boiling salted water. It's got to be boiling, and best practice is salted. Number 2, base your time depending on your needs. If you are just brightening the color and you want it to still taste like it's raw, it's a 10 to 20-second blanch. If you need to start cooking because you're going to saute it later and you want to have a saute time of about 45 seconds, you want to blanch it a little bit longer. So I did mine 2 minutes because the only further cooking they're going to have is I'm going to pour pickling brine over them, and that pickling brine is going to be just off the boil. I'll pour it over these and I'll let them sit for a couple of days and then put them in the fridge. Or I may just let them sit until they cool and then put them in the fridge. So there's a couple of ways to approach that. However, that's a little bit later. But for now, that's how I dealt with the carrots from the kitchen, and that's the process of blanching and shocking. All right, so I kind of wanted to close the loop here on the pickled carrots. I've been talking about them all morning. We went out to the garden to see these carrots. I told you this was my particular project for these carrots. So I have in this pot, it's equal amounts of vinegar and water, and then it has about 50% sugar. And then in here I have, these are the carrots that have been blanched. I have in here whole peppercorns, onions. This is dill. I have in here also, you can't see any, but there's garlic chopped up in here as well. So these are refrigerator pickles. These aren't the kind that you're going to put up and keep them all year. These are going to, you're going to eat these pretty quick. So I have this fancy little yellow thing that I use for canning all the time so I don't make a mess. So what I want to do is I want to pretty much cover these. There we go. Pretty much right up to the, yep, there. All right. So I take these, and like I said, since these are what we call refrigerator pickles, we're not going to pressure can these. So the actual process for this, and you have the recipe, I've posted it on Canvas, tells you to go ahead and cover them and then let them cool to room temperature sitting out. And then once they've cooled to room temperature, then they can go in the fridge. Now be sure to label them so we know what day we made them. And they like to sit for at least 2 days. They'll be good once they cool down and you can eat them, they're good. But if you let them sit for a few days and you're patient, they're really, really quite delicious. So anywhere between 2 and 4 days is when they start to get really good. And then they'll be good in your fridge for a month or so, at least. So the only thing that will happen is that the carrots will eventually get softer over time, but they won't go bad. There's way too much acid in here for them to go bad. So these are good fresh pickles. They're very quick and very easy to make. I do pickle variations for a lot of my vegetables. Otherwise, we can't eat them because they come too fast and furious when the summer harvests come. So there's my carrot pickles, and I hope that you guys do something similar with yours, because they're delicious and nutritious, and they taste great. Thanks.